The year is 2030, and humanity has arrived at the edge of survival. The previous year, 2029, was defined by the global energy crisis, a collapse that plunged societies into darkness, scarcity, and chaos. Blackouts, riots, and desperate wars over dwindling resources reshaped the balance of the world. Now, as 2030 begins, humanity faces a new and terrifying reality. The world is no longer about prosperity or progress. It is about endurance. It is about surviving one more day. Cities that once sparkled with neon lights and endless electricity now stand in eerie silence. The great megacities of the world are shadows of themselves, their skyscrapers flickering with only a few remaining lights, powered by generators or rationed microgrids. People line up for hours to receive their share of limited energy, food, and water. Streets once filled with cars and bustling businesses are now dominated by bicycles, carts, and crowds walking in silence. The promise of modern technology, so celebrated only a decade earlier, has turned into a bitter memory. The scars of 2029 are visible everywhere. Governments have collapsed in several regions, replaced by emergency councils, AI-led administrations, or even military juntas. Nations that survived the energy collapse intact are now global superpowers, wielding energy as the ultimate weapon of influence. Solar-rich countries in Africa, nuclear-reliant nations in Asia, and those who secretly invested in fusion technology now hold the future in their hands. The rest of the world, desperate and fragile, depends on them for survival. But energy is not the only crisis. The social fabric of humanity is tearing apart. The unemployment created by the unstoppable rise of artificial intelligence continues to expand. In 2028, millions lost their jobs to machines. In 2029, millions more became useless as industries shut down due to energy collapse. Now in 2030, entire generations find themselves without purpose. Humans, once the builders and dreamers of society, face the terrifying truth. The machines no longer need them, and the world no longer has space for them. This despair creates explosive movements. Across Europe and the Americas, massive protests erupt. Angry crowds hold banners demanding survival for all, and end the machines. Streets turn into battlegrounds, with citizens clashing against armored police forces and drones. The irony is, bitter machines are not only taking jobs, but also suppressing the protests against them. In Asia, massive surveillance states grow even more powerful, using AI to track every move of their citizens. Individual freedom becomes a luxury no one can afford. Meanwhile, rural communities and small towns adapt differently. Cut off from centralized systems, they turn to families farm again. Communities build their own microgrids with solar panels and wind turbines, and barter economies return. What was once seen as regression becomes the only path to survival. In many parts of the world, life in 2030 looks more like 1930, but with the haunting presence of advanced AI systems watching from above. The cultural impact is staggering. For centuries, humanity defined itself by progress. Bigger cities, faster machines, stronger economies, but in 2030, the narrative changes. For the first time in modern history, survival becomes the defining story. Songs, films, and art no longer glorify ambition, they glorify resilience. New religions spread, some worshiping AI as saviors, others condemning them as demons. Philosophers and scientists argue endlessly. Is humanity witnessing the end of its era, or the painful birth of something new? The political map of 2030 is unrecognizable. Nations once dominant are now weakened, while others rise unexpectedly. Africa, rich in solar energy and young populations, becomes a new powerhouse. The Middle East, torn apart by resource wars, fractures into smaller states. Europe faces division as northern nations embrace nuclear energy, while southern nations collapse under drought and famine. The United States, plagued by internal conflict, struggles to maintain global influence. China, empowered by centralized AI governance and vast renewable investments, emerges as the leading superpower of the decade. But even China is not immune to the deeper crisis of 2030. Its megacities face food shortages, water scarcity, and growing discontent among citizens. No nation escapes the truth. Humanity has reached the edge. Technology itself becomes a paradox. On one hand, AI systems provide solutions that humans alone could never achieve. They optimize agriculture, discover new medicines, and even develop the first fully functional space colonies orbiting Earth. On the other hand, these same AI systems demand colossal amounts of energy, intensifying the crisis. Every step forward comes at a cost. People begin to question, are we advancing, or are we only accelerating our own destruction? Space exploration becomes both a symbol of hope and controversy. In 2030, the first permanent human colony on Mars is announced, led not by a nation, but by a coalition of corporations powered by AI logistics. While some celebrate this achievement as humanity's next frontier, others see it as a betrayal. Billions on Earth starve in the dark, while a privileged few escape to the stars. Protests denounce the Martian betrayal, arguing that resources should be used to save Earth, not to build a second home for the rich. As the year progresses, climate change adds fuel to the fire. Rising seas flood coastal cities, forcing millions into migration. Droughts devastate agriculture in South America and Africa. Storms of unprecedented intensity destroy entire regions in Southeast Asia. The energy crisis of 2029 merges with the climate crisis of 2030, creating a perfect storm of despair. By mid-2030, the global population faces famine on a scale unseen in modern times. Hundreds of millions go hungry daily. In some nations, the government distributes synthetic foods created by AI-controlled labs, cheap, efficient, but tasteless. People eat to survive, not to enjoy. Malnutrition spreads, especially among children. The dream of endless abundance promised by the early 21st century is gone, replaced by the harsh reality of scarcity. And yet, amid this darkness, sparks of light appear. Communities that adapt, cooperate, and embrace resilience begin to thrive. Small towns powered by renewable microgrids, guided by AI optimization, achieve stability. People relearn the value of cooperation, sharing, and community spirit. In these places, hope survives. The lesson becomes clear. Survival in 2030 is not about individual strength, but about collective resilience. The psychological toll, however, is enormous. Rates of depression, suicide, and anxiety skyrocket. People who once built their identities around work, careers, and ambitions now struggle to find meaning. In response, new cultural movements emerge, preaching minimalism, spiritual awakening, and even transhumanism. Some advocate merging with AI to remain relevant, while others embrace the simplicity of human traditions. Humanity stands divided, not just physically, but spiritually. By late 2030, the question becomes unavoidable. What does it mean to be human in an age when survival is uncertain and machines shape the future? For some, the answer lies in resistance, fighting back against AI, reclaiming human agency, and demanding equality. For others, the answer lies in adaptation, merging with machines, embracing change, and evolving into something new. The clash between these visions defines the cultural landscape of the year. As December arrives, the world stands on the edge. Entire nations are gone, replaced by AI-led systems or fractured states. Billions struggle daily, while a privileged minority lives in fortified cities, enjoying luxuries powered by energy others can only dream of. The first human colony on Mars sends back images of thriving life, sparking both awe and fury. The contrast between survival on Earth and progress in space defines the year's legacy. 2030 will be remembered as the year when humanity faced itself in the mirror. A year of famine and chaos, but also of resilience and hope. A year where humanity realized that survival is not guaranteed, and that the choices made now will echo for centuries. And as the year ends, whispers grow louder. If 2028 was the rise of AI and 2029 was the collapse of energy, then 2030 is the moment humanity reached the edge. But what comes next? In 2031, humanity will take its first step beyond Earth, into the stars. Will that step save us or finally reveal that our destiny was never meant to remain human at all?